Hi, guys. Welcome to a new episode of our podcast. Today, we have a special guest, and our first guest, actually, which is Avi. Hi, Avi.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm good and happy to be here with you.
Really, really happy to have you, and can't wait to talk more about yoga and what you do.
Really happy to have our first guest on the podcast. Avi is a Satyananda Yoga teacher and founder of the Prakriti School of Yoga. His teachings are based on the Bihar School of Yoga lineage, also known as Satyananda Yoga. The Prakriti School of Yoga was created by Avi in 2008, inspired by his guru. Avi, as in Avishek Majumdar, was born in India, close to the roots of yoga and mindfulness. He took his first steps onto the spiritual path in early childhood, and ever since then, he has been walking on this path under the guidance of great spiritual mentors from Bihar School of Yoga to His Holiness Dalai Lama. Avi has been teaching traditional yoga and meditation and running workshops on wellness and mindfulness for the past 24 years, out of which 17 in Romania and more than 10 other countries. Avi is also a psychologist and works with yoga, psychology, and Ayurveda combined together. He has also studied Thai foot reflexology and other body based therapies. Welcome, Avi. Very happy to have you. If
Thank
you
you.
want to add anything else about yourself, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, we can jump right into the questions.
Yeah, maybe the only thing to add all the years or all the qualifications that you mentioned about me still keeps me as a student of yoga. So I see myself as an eternal student of yoga, and I'm still learning and trying to refine my understanding around the subject. That's what I'm doing.
And you have a lot of experience, and maybe it's even hard to remember now because it's been a while. But what got you into yoga? How did you start about practicing all those many years ago?
As truth must be told, as a child, I had zero interest in yoga. I had nothing to do with yoga. Uh, I worshipped Bruce Lee, and I wanted to be like him. Yeah, yeah. I studied also so quite some years martial art, and having big poster of Bruce Lee on my bedroom and all that. But how it happens is, I had ADHD. I might still have it a bit. I'm anxious and I'm very jittery person in certain manner. And thankfully, about 35 years back, in a small town in India, there was no as such psychologist to whom you will take your small kid. So you will go and drop for multiple problem. There's a one solution: you put them to a yoga class, and with the hope that the kid becomes a little calm and balanced and functions well. So pretty much the same thing happened with me. My parents tried many times to introduce me to yoga, so to keep myself in a manageable state, if I may say this. So that's how yoga came into my life, and over the years, I realized something. Yoga really helped me, even as a kid, to become better in my martial art. I was also practicing swimming, so I could that influenced my swimming skills, so especially the breath work, and it sticked along. I can't say of anything else for which I started practicing yoga, and eventually that took me to some teachers, and then to the monks of Ramakrishna Mission Order, and they suggested me, if I really am serious with yoga, I should go and study at Bihar School of Yoga. And everything happened in a very organic manner. There was no as such a conscious decision, let me go and do a teacher's training program and I want to be a yoga teacher and I will teach and this and that. No, nothing like that.
That's the best way, isn't it? The more
It's
organic way.
natural. Yeah, yeah, I'd say so.
I was curious, because of course your background as a teacher and as a practitioner is that of Shivananda Yoga, Satyananda Yoga. So how is this Satyananda yoga any different from other types of yoga? And I have found something online. Satyananda yoga is also called the yoga of head, heart, and hands.
Right.
So can you share a little bit about that and help us plunge a deep dive into Satyananda yoga?
Okay. Would love to do that. First of all, when we are looking at yoga, we are basically understanding yoga as asanas, as a physical postures. At least in the West, for many years, this is how we perceived when a people saying, okay, I'm going to a yoga class, they're referring to that they will go and spread the mat, do some movements, maybe a little bit of breath work
Uh-huh.
and a bit of relaxation technique, and that ends the yoga practice, which is quite good. It's a great replacement of anything that is fitness oriented, can help in imbibing the yogic understanding. But if we take a step back, traditionally yoga was created to create harmony between our intellect, between our emotions, and between our actions. Uh, it had a lot to do with synchronizing our wholesome personality. And that's where Satyananda Yoga differs, because here the practices are designed in such a manner that you do certain things for your body, you do certain things to take care of your energy system, you do certain things to take care of your mind, your emotion, and all of this are presented in certain proportion, even in a 90-minute or a 1 hour yoga session.
Mm-hmm.
So that is something that differentiates Satyananda Yoga from some other tradition. I cannot say that it is only a hatha yoga based, or it is only kriya yoga based, or mantras and raja yoga based. It has multiple different branches of yoga put together.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
And I just want to piggyback on what you were saying before with, once you got into yoga and you were mentioning swimming and other physical activities. So, are you still doing other things outside yoga right now? And how do you feel those other things complement yoga? Yeah, and what's your advice, I guess, for people that want to try yoga? Should they combine it with other practices as well? Yeah, what's better?
I do recommend people to combine different practices. So I'm not a person who's usually subscribing that, yes, if you're doing yoga, you don't need any other kind of fitness activity or wellness ritual. I love walking. I mean, I know that's nothing very extreme, but I try every week to cover certain number of kilometers, and I walk within the park, within the city. That works best for me. There are people who find relaxing if they are in the pool and they go for a few laps of swimming. That works for them. Uh, to do some fitness training, whether it's an high intensity training program or aerobics or Pilates, all of them can go very well along with yoga.
Mhm.
Uh, the meaning itself of yoga is unification. We don't have to have that, the tunnel vision and say that, oh, just because I practice yoga, I'm going to say no to going to a gym or doing weightlifting, or the rest are bad and I'm good. No, I don't really subscribe to such kind of ideas. Neither anybody should. All the branches have their own benefits when they're applied with the right understanding.
Yeah, that's refreshing to hear. Of course, there are different schools of thought, right? Some of the practitioners of yoga and the teachers of yoga say that we should only do yoga, while others are more open to embracing other types of movement or other types of spiritual practices. Um, I was curious to hear a little bit more about your experience in Romania. How come you're here for so many years? Um, and I'm also curious, how do you find Romanian yogis different than other yogis that you've met? How is your experience when it comes to teaching yoga to Romanians as opposed to other nations and cultures? Yeah, but first of all, I guess, how did you end up here? I'm super curious.
There's a very short answer and a longer answer to it. The shorter answer is actually it's split it in two. It was my master who many years back, once I was transiting between living in Hong Kong and planning to return back to India and to stay there for long. And I went to meet him and asked him, what do you suggest? What should I do? And out of the blue, he said, well, in Eastern Europe, there's a work needs to be done. And it was just a simple sentence out of context, and I couldn't even comprehend at that event when he mentioned that to me why he said that. But then multiple events happened in such a manner in a span of 3-4 weeks that I ended up being here in
Wow.
Romania under a month, and that was a short visit. And then eventually I moved here. I had family here and stayed here, and Romania was like a second home for me. um, it was not how should I say it, it was not something where I struggled, should I stay here or not. It felt very natural for me to stay here. The people are warm, nice, um, kind people, homely people, not agitated. So yeah, it felt really good to be here in Romania.
Yeah, I think you
Mm.
say that you say Romanians are not agitated because you live in Timișoara, right, for most of your days. But if you come a little bit southwards,
Monica,
uh, you might find that we are a bit different than those up north or than in the middle
yeah,
of the country.
you should at some point come with me to India and let's take a walk in Mumbai, in the streets of Mumbai, and then you will understand what agitation means, what traffic means. And the Bucharest feels zen. It's a zen garden. It's beautiful.
I
In comparison
understand.
to those countries, in comparison to even Hong Kong and some other places I have lived, oh, this is bliss. Yoga has changed its definition. So now yoga has become more a part of gyms, a fitness studio, and we are looking at it like that. So yoga has become a popular common word. But in early 2000, yoga was still highly inclined with having a very spiritual dimension, and it was a little bit behind the curtain because of several reasons. It was still practiced behind the curtain.
Mm.
Uh, if I may say this, it was in a way easier to teach in those years, even though there were people who were not necessarily very open to yoga, but they were more inclined to the spiritual dimension of yoga. Now yoga is more popular, and it is more a replacement, or more of like having, instead of Pilates today you can go for yoga, instead of aerobics today you can choose to go for yoga. So it's a replacement of fitness rituals, which is good. It definitely takes care of the body and the energy and the breath and all that. I will doubt a bit on how it impacts the consciousness and how it impacts in transformation from within. That part is slightly debatable.
Mm. But it's interesting because you have all this multicultural perspective. I'm sure, of course, Alex has a different perspective on this because she has been living outside of Romania for so many years. So maybe for her it's different.
Well, yeah, I was actually surprised by your assessment as well, Avi, because I kind of veer towards what Monica is saying, even though I'm not living there anymore. But before I left, I always felt like, yeah, Romanians are really nervous, and yeah, I mean, I'm coming from the same country, but maybe it's something else that you're noticing in yoga. But you were mentioning the sort of, that yoga now is more about exercise, right? Or the physical practice. It evolved. And it's less on the spiritual. But I guess what I wanted to kind of ask you is, okay, so it's more on the physical practice. But wouldn't that maybe be a way to attract more people, that then they get to yoga, they do the physical, and then they get to, benefit from the spiritual as well, because they're open, to trying it first, because they're attracted by, I don't know, the impossible poses or whatever it is, right? That they like, I don't know, social media.
Yeah, you're touching a bit of a controversial point, and I don't know how much I should sincerely open up and start talking about it. Let's
Open up.
understand the psychological demography, how it changed in the last period since the social media, especially the top two, Facebook, Instagram, influenced the Romanian culture. The background psychology is a lot about comparison and a lot about copying. When we copy without understanding, we there's a friction that is there inside, and that friction is there, and that agitation can be felt in people in the capital, in many other parts of Romania, where they're trying to achieve a goal, they're grasping it, but they're not able to enjoy it because certain software settings are not aligned for them to live that life. Romania was a country where a lot of simplicity was practiced entire during maybe slightly forcefully during communism, and even post-communism, till the floodgate opened up and all the social media bombarded and pushed us to compare ourselves. And since then, as the yoga became popular, there are a lot of yoga teachers are in the society now who are making a living. They had to run their family by earning money through yoga. I'm one among them, right? And not everybody has that stubbornness, I would use the word, to say, no, I'm not going to be flexible, I'm not going to dance as per the tune of your expectation. I will remain true to myself. I feel this is what yoga should be. And it happens, no? If I need to have 30 students in my class to pay my bills, and I see if I don't teach even at a 9 p.m. yoga class 10 rounds of sun salutation, which normally is, as per my understanding, is so against the biorhythm, I will still teach, because my student will say, Avi, today you haven't done the sun salutation. Do you plan to do the same next week? And then I can choose maybe Monica's class or somebody else's class. And then I'm going to say, oh, Dwamne, I'm going to lose business. And then I will act differently. So I don't know if I'm answering to you. This financial expectation makes us dance and do funny stuff.
So you feel that with this, yoga teachers maybe are forced in a way to maybe teach things they wouldn't necessarily, right? Because it's like, okay, everyone is expecting the physical side of things, so I'm just gonna do that. So it kind of shifts the expectation for both the student and the teacher.
Right. Also,
Yeah.
everybody wants to stand out. Everybody
Mm.
wants to stand out. I do have some inherent advantage. I come to Romania, and in the early years, I used to say Indian yoga teacher. And that used to be a very good, it creates a segment. It brought me people. I was happy about that. But let's be realistic. If three Romanian student teachers are standing, they have to say something different. And in that case, they will say, I'm going to do, let's say, full moon blah blah yoga, and another will say, I'm going to tell you some levitation yoga, and another in the meditation yoga. You have to come up with your special sauce. And that's another way, because we want to be different. We are ready to compromise and create distortion in our understanding of yoga, and we are doing very interesting things.
Yeah, but I think it's the same regardless whether you're in Romania or not, right? If you want to be a teacher, if you are a
Of
teacher, you
course.
have to have your own style, and then yeah, attract in some way.
Right.
So yeah, I guess it happens across. All I will say to all of this is that I'm not a yoga teacher, but I started practicing yoga in 2017. And all I'd say is, if it weren't for the Western culture, I think, and the Western approach with the physicality, I started practicing vinyasa, so you understand kind of
Mhm.
the dynamic there. I would have never gone into yoga, and now I'm open to the spiritual part. But initially, I was like, nah, this is not for me.
It's a
Um,
gate, isn't it? It's a gate towards understanding
Exactly.
yoga in depth, right? So,
Yeah, and
yeah,
it's not only a gate, it's maybe, if I can say, it's a very wide open gate that everybody feels quite comfortable, safe to walk through it. So I'm teaching some long yoga courses, and in the beginner yoga course, I don't even teach them the basic mantras. I'm not introducing them anything on the chakras, uh, not yoga physiology, philosophy. No, let's do the mishkare. You feel
The
good?
Mishkari,
Okay.
yeah,
A
the
little bit of
asana. Yeah.
breathing, a little bit of yoga nidra, wrap up, go home. We talk next week. And that works.
Of
And
course.
it's okay. And then eventually to add something that can be that takes you more deeper.
But speaking of deeper things, I know we've been chatting for quite a few weeks, trying to find good time for us when we're available, all the three of us, for the podcast. And this is how I realized that you regularly go and live in an ashram. And I wanted to ask you, what does that experience mean for you? How often live do you go and live in ashrams, and why is that important for you as a yogi, as a practitioner, as a teacher of yoga?
Yeah, and I just want to, for our listeners that might not know, maybe also touch on what an ashram is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I should start with saying what's an ashram means. Ashram is definitely not a yoga tribe or a teacher who sets up a few, houses or buildings and say, okay, come and practice with me. Ashrams are usually traditionally set up for thousands of years back. This is the tradition set by somebody who's very visionary and who are naturally, people would claim them, they are like a spiritual leaders and the masters, not uh, defined by the how many um, followers they have or how many students they have. Now, one said that ashrams are place, or the ashram where I go, that's my parents, I'm going to the Bihar School of Yoga, is yoga is like peeling the onion. It has infinite number of layers. Like what sun salutation meant to me 30 years back, now it means completely different. uh, Even the posture is not changing, but the depth where I can reach with that practice, what I can understand about my psychophysiological play taking place within me, can give me some fascinating revelation about myself, can help me to fix many idiotic behaviors that are still highly present. And I look at myself and say, Frate, when are you going to learn these things? And you have been repeating same thing on and on, so ashram is the time for me, is when I go back and I work on myself. When me in ashram, I have zero interest in what's happening in the outside world. That's my time to recharge myself, reboot myself, doubt my belief system, question whatever I understand, and finding ways and means to build up on that understanding, or even at some time just throw away those understanding and to uh, refresh my
So
outlook on yoga.
it's like a turning inwards
Yeah.
toward yourself. How often do you do it, and for how long?
Things changed pre-pandemic. My intentions, or I have done it pretty much the last 20 years. Every year I will spend an approximately a month or 2 months, a month and a half in ashram per year. Post-pandemic, I'm trying to increase that to 3.5 or 4 months per year, to spend at least almost, if possible, a quarter of the year to work on myself, and the rest part I'm teaching.
Mhm.
And for the noobs here, which is me, so you go there by yourself, basically, right? So away from the family, and you spend 3 to 4 months.
Not at a stretch. That would be very challenging. I'll be
Oh,
jobless if I
okay.
do that.
Uh,
So I try to split it into at least in two half, to go 1 month or 45 days here and 45 days there. 4 month, not yet in 1 year, but approximately 2.5 to 3 months over a year. Yes, I'm fortunate to do that in the last 2 3 years, 2 years, and yeah, that's how I do it.
Okay, and you mentioned this, right? You're going there to work on yourself. So I guess with this, my question would be, what would you say is I don't know, what's yoga's impact on your life overall, or what's like the most valuable thing you think yoga taught you or changed for you so far in the vast experience and time you've been practicing?
Before I answer that, you asked me another question previously. I should answer that. I go for myself, and sometimes I'm also bringing my students who can come and stay, but much shorter period for 10, 15 days. So they come and they stay, and they, the experience from the roots, how yoga or how spiritual yoga should be. Now, once said that, what yoga got me? It's like a lasagna. We are building it up layer by layer. Some layers have a more substance, and some are more with the parmesan, and it's different. At this point, what yoga helps me to not to get very conditioned, to keep myself mobile, agile, more than physically, mentally. I am very much afraid of mental rigidity than physical stiffness. And for the past several years, I'm very much inclined in blending psychology and yoga, and I'm working a lot on my therapies, which are I'm bringing in yoga in a psychotherapy, or I should call them yoga therapy, because I don't work as a psychotherapist. In this yoga therapy, what we are learning about myself is I can take a person only to the depth I have been. I cannot help you to go to the moon if I haven't crossed the edge of the city. So the challenge is on myself to expand myself as much as I can so that I can help people better. But in a nutshell, I would say yoga helps me to see my conditioning, my limitations. I'm more aware of my ignorance, and I'm trying. It's a work in progress to accept myself as I am.
Yeah, that's a hard challenge, I think, for all of us, regardless whether or not we're doing yoga. Although yoga might help accepting yourself a bit more than without it, but yeah, I don't know if we're ever gonna make it completely on that. I don't know.
I doubt that. I doubt that. It's not the destination. It's more the journey.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, you know, if when my friends are going to listen to this podcast, they will say, "Oh, Farate, you sound too smart. You're not that smart." And some of the students might say, "Oh no, you're sounding smart." So they're friends. There are people in our life who knows us better, who have seen us doing the similar mistake on and on. So, but we keep trying. Do we have other options? Discutable. So we
This
keep on
could.
trying, and we keep on working on ourselves.
But you know, Avi, I was thinking, so you mentioned that sometimes your students and the people who practice with you sometimes join you for a shorter periods of time in the ashrams.
Mhm.
And I know that you traditionally constantly lead retreats
Yeah.
all over the world. So I was super curious, what has been your experience in leading retreats in various parts of the world, of Europe, and is there anything that stands out in terms of location or cultural habits or local color, local flavor? Do you have a particular story to tell about a specific retreat spot? Anything cool to share about leading retreats?
I just finished yesterday. I returned from a retreat in Spain, and it was the first actually retreat we have done with about 25, 30 people gathered together for the retreat.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah, and very beautiful work over the weekend. And there's something that stands out based on the culture. What I felt, the cultures which are more exposed to sun, the cultures we are more exposed to this, let's say, moderation weather, they have a different. I will use the word different because nothing is better or worse.
Of course.
Different way to embrace the yoga. I found Spain to be fascinating. Maybe I'm still having that, the hangover from just coming out from
You
the
just came back.
yeah,
What
yeah, yeah,
region was that? What region were you?
Bilbao, Basque County. So close to the sea. We were in a hilly area, in a beautiful retreat place, and great food. Uh,
Of
so
course.
we did yoga, mantra, singings, and a bit of dancing. So a lot of things happened in that retreat. Yeah, so that's what I can say about it.
Yeah. Great. Well, yeah, I mean, Spain sounds wonderful in terms of both opening up to yoga and such practices, and also food, uh, for sure.
Yeah, I love Spain. Um,
Yeah.
Everything in Spain that I've seen so far. Although I haven't been there, so in Bilbao yet. So, but I'm sure it's nice.
Yeah.
If I'm to judge by the rest of Spain, that is.
Yeah. The people have somehow lesser trauma in their life. This is my perception. They are not that heavy. The shoulders are not that rigid. They're not that afraid. Just like, okay, so on. So there's that easygoing kind of a thing.
It's hard to be that heavy when you live by the sea,
Oh
in a
yeah.
nice,
Oh yeah.
warm
Out in the
environment.
sun. Yeah.
Can't deny that. Can't deny that.
Um, I'm curious, and it's because you're talking, you're very much, doing retreats. You go to ashram. Obviously, you're practicing, you're teaching. You've been doing it for so long. Is there anything that you can think of that would stop you from practicing yoga at some point, at any point?
Because yoga has such a vast umbrella. There are so many things that I consider now is part of yoga. Meditation is yoga, mantras are yoga, pranayamas are yoga, spending time with yourself is yoga, consciously taking a walk in the park is yoga, consciously cooking, consciously eating is part of yoga. So I really doubt that yoga is gonna leave me or I will leave yoga. But I see maybe in the old age, I'm not gonna do every morning 27 round of sun salutation, or maybe I will do the different kind of yoga postures. Maybe the savasana will be longer. Chinishtiya. Those kind of changes are can happen, but leaving yoga aside, I don't think so.
That's so nice to hear, because I'm, the same in terms of everything I post on social media has my yoga life tag, because I feel like everything is so intertwined with yoga. To your point, like if I take a conscious walk, I just stop and realize where I am. I'm present in the moment. Yeah, so it's nice to hear another teacher's perspective on this, except for Monica's. That's that we discussed about this in depth. That Yeah, I got that as well without all these years of practice and being a teacher. But it really does feel like once you start, you're not gonna stop, basically, because there's no way unless you just stop living, I guess.
It's a more a lifestyle. The eventually once the yoga converts from a practice to a lifestyle, there is no stopping. There is no going. It has blended.
Yeah.
It's part of your life.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things that we as practitioners or teachers of yoga or both have as a common ground is the fact that we really like to talk about yoga to other people who haven't necessarily approached it or started it. So I was super curious to know what was your strategy and what was the outcome in trying to convince more people to do yoga. For instance, I know that um, quite a few famous Romanian pop stars have practiced with you along the years. And I was curious, how exactly has teaching to more famous persons has led people be closer to yoga or take up yoga or understand yoga?
I would say people are people, no matter what they do professionally. And there are human needs, which is pretty much the same for everybody.
Mm.
We want to be loved, we want to be accepted, we want to feel that we are connected with ourselves. And these are the needs that yoga can quite easily offer to anybody and everybody. What happens is, I'm not referring to any particular celebrity or well-known
Uh-huh.
social media person.
Yeah.
We Once a person is very busy or having a high or busy social life, the requirement of recuperation is also proportionately higher. And these are the people who really understand that maybe without yoga their life will be really going to fall apart, so they are very much focused into their well-being ritual.
Mm. Because their energy expenditure is
It's very high,
also very, very, it's huge, right?
incredibly high, incredibly high. And I have been around some of them for multiple years, followed them to multiple cities and programs and everything, and I know this. It's sometimes you wonder, like, okay, you are teaching that person yoga and she's performing and she's doing the things, but how? You just admire the energy that they're ready to bring on the platform, which is awesome, which is awesome. And that gives you the hope that yes, when you are religious about your own sadhana, you do your own practice without missing out, without making compromise, you tap into that enormous amount of power of you know carrying oneself forward. And that's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I'm sure. And also, I think this sets an example and an inspiration for people, who follow them or whose lives are equally busy and
Mhm.
who let themselves be inspired by their lifestyles. And if yoga is part of their life and their routine, then all of the others, all of us can embrace yoga more easily, right?
Yeah, i I have worked with some people, as you know, they are more into the media, and so you get to see them in their
Yeah,
limelight. But I've
yeah.
also worked with people who are into the very high positions in the corporations and stuff, and their life is also equally busy. One thing that stands out, that um, they have this non-negotiable time for their own well-being rituals. You cannot bargain there. They are very strict, and that's a quality that kind of separates between a leader and the rest. A leader in any domain, almost any domain, they have discipline,
Mm.
and they go into the depth, I mean infinite depth, in any one-on-one mentorship program. You won't believe this is the yoga practice is no more just about doing some postures and breathing and a little bit of yoga nidra. No, it's about awakening the consciousness, really working with the energy, with the kundalini, and everything that you can think of. They are tapping into those, let's say, for me it is a yogic tool, and in a form of like a biohacking, or transforming themselves into the best version that they can be.
Yeah, great to hear. It's really great to see that people who are so busy and who are very high at the top in terms of their professional career, they make time. So their discipline is not only work related, but it's also me time or self care or leisure time related. Because in order for them to maintain the focus in their professional careers, they need to really take good care of their health and mental balance, and that's where we should get inspired by, I would say.
Indeed.
And I guess on this kind of on a similar note, on you talked about the people that take the time to do yoga, but from your again experience and from what you're seeing, maybe from the people that don't do yoga, I'm assuming maybe you have some experience with that. What would you say is maybe the one thing that most people get wrong about yoga?
I think there's a lot of this kind of, how you call them, memes or something in the social media, that you have to be flexible to practice yoga. Yeah. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm rigid." So what? Your body might be rigid, but you can be flexible in your mind and adapt, and body will follow. So the physical rigidity has nothing to do with yoga, and you almost literally everybody can get benefit from yoga.
Mm.
Even if they are ready to overcome that initial resistance, there's always room for it.
And it's nice to hear you say that. We just had an episode about yoga misconceptions, and this was one of the most common ones that we could find as well, and that we've actually heard. Right? I'm not flexible. Yoga isn't for me. There's no point in trying. Right? But you get flexible if you do yoga.
Indeed, absolutely. The body follows the mind. Once we learn how to decompress the body, desomatize the trauma, the stress from the body becomes more soft. I know otherwise we are like shoulders up and we're always lifting the shield and protecting ourselves. No, you become a more chilled, relaxed, setback person if you take yourself easily.
I have one more question for you, Avi, before we
Again,
close or before Alex has her own final question. I was curious to see how do you see this gender differentiation when it comes to yoga practitioners? Because it is obvious that more and more women practice yoga nowadays as opposed to men. So if I look at people who are sitting next to me in a class when I go to practice in a group setting, or if I look at the practitioners that come to join my classes as a teacher, there are almost always um, higher percentages of women than men. So I'm curious to see, how do you perceive this, and do you have an explanation for this? How do you feel about this?
see the feminine gender is inbuilt with this enormous skill to connect with their inner world, right? This is an inbuilt quality. A woman has this quality because one day they might become a mother, and when they become a mother, for the first 9 months of the motherhood, you need to consciously connect to the baby inside. You don't get to see, you need to just feel. 100 years back, 1,000 years back, there were no ultrasound, so you have to just feel if the baby is fine or not. So most likely our creator created woman in such a manner that you will be able to understand the inner world with way much more ease than the other gender.
Uh-huh.
And in today's time, uh, the men have become very competitive and they become very conscious. You go and spread the yoga mat, and I know there are men who came to my yoga classes. They come and they said, Avi, can I talk to you for a minute? She is good. And look, I had a back thing and I'm not very flexible. Do you really think, can I spread the mat on the back? And I said, most likely you are as rigid as me. I'm not super flexible. So spread your mat wherever you want. It's not about competition. It's about simply holding a compassionate place where you allow things to flow. Uh, and for and I know this is, we should not categorize like man and woman. It can happen to women also. There are more masculine people, more men, who find it challenging to look within the that activates more pain and the suffering in themselves. And sincerely speaking, I felt it's more easy for me to connect outside and do any practices by outward focus than to remain in my presence and accepting myself in its totality. I feel this could be a cause for more women to get drawn to yoga than men.
Yeah, thanks so much for that. Was quite eye-opening. For sure, a valid reason why this might happen. I this question is derived from my latest conversations with Alex, and we've been thinking about this. She's noticing this for sure. I'm noticing this in Romania, but yeah, always interesting to observe.
It's everywhere. So I mean, well, I haven't been to all the countries, but what I'm seeing online and from UK, it's the same, which is weird a bit, right? Because yoga is from India, and I think more men used to practice yoga in India than women at the beginning, right? No, okay, that's interesting. I thought so.
Traditionally, yoga was more embraced by women than men. What happens when a man learns 10 plus 2 steps in yoga? They step out of their house and they go a little more gaga about it. So they become the teacher, and they become a little more noisy with the yoga part.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, women have always practiced yoga in their seclusion, not going out in a community class maybe, but the feminine energy is the one which I think over the years sustained the purity of the yoga practice.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, we got that wrong. So I think for maybe our final question, or my final question, before we close, what would be I don't know, one piece of advice you would like to leave our listeners with, people that have never practiced?
Just to try. I mean, they should not get convinced. I'm not inviting them to go and get married to yoga. I'm just asking, go for a date, go for a blind date, see how it works. You will not like it, come back home, try something else. The good thing is there are 1,000 different things that everybody can do. Yoga doesn't have to be for everyone. But to say no, yoga is not for me, or as a matter of fact, anything is not for me without even trying it, that's kind of a shows a kind of a limited mindset. And maybe that's what we should be addressing here. Try it. And yoga is like, my suggestion is try it for a few times, because first time you're like spaced out, God knows what's happening around me and all this elastic people, or
Definitely.
yeah. And then decide for yourself. Take it easy. Nobody's going to hold a gun to you and say, okay, no, you have tried once, now you have to try 100 more times.
Yeah, that's such a easy, lovely, basic advice. But yeah, I totally agree. I think also there's like different, styles in yoga. So maybe try different styles at that. If you don't like one, it might not mean that yoga isn't for you. Maybe just
Exactly.
that's not for you, right?
If the person is more physical, try out something physical. You find it more familiar there. Don't stay stuck there. Try out something more. If you're more meditative, go and try out some meditative yoga, but don't stay there. Try out something dynamic. Why not to go and do one day the primary series, one day you do some more flow practice? It's nice to challenge your body and to different things. We don't have to eat every day Chinese food or Indian food or Romanian food. One day you go out and you eat Mexican. So in the same way, Dechenu, try out multiple
Continue.
stuff.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah, totally agree.
This has been very inspiring. A few tens of minutes spent to Avi's side in our podcast. Thank you so much. Maybe as a final thought, let's inform our viewers and listeners where exactly they can find you, both physical and on social media, and we'll make sure we include links towards your social media profiles when we launch this
Mhm.
podcast. Please.
I'm not very consistent with my social media, way less consistent than I'm consistent with yoga. But yeah, Instagram can be found as a Yoga with Avi or as a Mangal Dharma. I have a Facebook page, Satyananda Yoga with Avi. Um, Depending on my mood and stuff, I post content. Sometimes I'm trying to make reels and stuff, but I'm not very consistent. Uh, the best way to experience a yoga session with me, because I all my classes are almost virtual also, so they can come and practice, see if it is for them. Maybe that will add that Mexican food is something different, or that can become their main course. It's up to them.
Right. Thank you so much. Yeah, this was lovely. Maybe we do this again sometime when you have some more time. And yeah, that's us for this week, guys. Thank you if you've made it this far. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you,
Bye.
Alexandra. It was wonderful.
Bye,
Thank you.
guys. Thank you
Thank
so much,
you.
Avi.